So, I did a bunch of my measuring here already. I used the slab roller. I got these to about 1/2 inch with the slab roller. Perfect, beautiful slabs. I made my slab lasagna where I put 2 sheets of newspaper, slab, 2 sheets of newspaper, slab, 2 sheets of newspaper on the very top. And what that did is the newspaper, in theory, evenly pulls moisture from both sides. What happens if moisture, like if I just put the slab out on a board, more moisture is going to be pulled from the top? What might happen?
Warping.
Yeah, dry too fast on one side and it'll warp. I'm the slab, I'm drying on the front, those edges come up. Even if you don't see that happen, there's gonna be some tension in the slab that could come back to haunt you later and mess up your corners. So that's why the lasagna technique works so good. And I left it uncovered for 2 days, and that was perfect. If you're doing it over the weekend, you can loosely cover it with plastic. You can also use rolling pins to roll out your slabs. And so I have my shape here. Basically, this is kind of what I'm thinking, but I gotta start with the simpler shapes. And I talked about simple to complex and how like I can cut off one side and I can move it over here. So I can cut off one thing, move it there. But I'm gonna have this shape and this shape. These are the ones I'm starting with. So I've measured out those different parts. And so I have measured out those parts. You see it? Hopefully. So I got my 8x8x8, 2 of them. And then I have my 4 8x3s. And then here I've got 5 5x5 by, who cares, same thing here. And then equilateral triangles here, 2 equilateral triangles there. So in terms of measuring, it's like you gotta measure from somewhere, not nowhere. That's what my daddy always told me. So cut off here. So I can most efficiently use the clay. I left these edges on just so you can see how efficiently I was trying to use it. So I can cut one side off. Once I do that, I can come here with my T-square and I can put it here, and then I can cut off this edge. So now I know I have a good 90-degree angle. If you don't have a T-square, you can also fudge it with like a sketchbook or something that you know has a perfect 90-degree angle. And then from that, then I can measure up here 8 inches, T-square it, draw a line, and then I can measure over here to make sure that it was straight, that it's 8 inches, because my dad also told me to measure twice, cut once, right?
A warning that some of our T-squares might be slightly wobbly, so
Yeah.
don't rely on theirs.
So that's why I just measured here to make sure that it was square. Good call though. Yeah, don't trust all your equipment. Always measure twice. So I have these things all cut, and then I use my material efficiently. I use 1 bag of clay, and I got these 3 slabs, and 2 slabs I guess were enough. I'll wrap that slab up and I'll keep it because I'll probably need it later, but you're gonna want to roll out, if you haven't already done so, a whole bag of clay. So now let's start connecting things.
And what did you use to score the lines?
To score the lines, I used the fettling knife to cut. Yeah, so I used a straight edge fettling knife and I cut it.
What if the slabs are thinner than 1/2 inch?
As long as they're not too thin. How thin is too thin? 1/4 inch is probably too thin, unless you're working really small. I mean, if it's like, you think about your slabs being in proportion to your form. If you're building like, you know, a 4-foot form, which would be really difficult, you probably want like 1-inch thick slabs. You probably want some really thick slabs. So it's like if you had 1/4-inch slabs, they're gonna be kind of floppy for a bigger form, but they're gonna be the right size for a smaller form. So you may have noticed that I measured exactly the dimensions that I wanted, and I can do that because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bevel all of these edges. The way that I do that is I place the slab on the edge of the table, and I gotta make sure to leave that bottom edge. So you gotta leave this edge here, and then
millimeter
this.
or two.
Yeah, just about 1 millimeter, and then this should not be more than 45.
Yeah.
You gotta have a little bit of material there for the attachment. And sometimes you're not beveling all the edges, like if you have an open side. If you're gonna have an open side, then make sure you're mindful about what edges you're beveling. And you can have a side open if it's going to be on the table, if it's a side you're not gonna see, or if you decide to do this a wall piece, you could do that too.
So your 90-degree connections all need to be beveled to.
Yes. And yeah, and I guess you don't have to do all 90-degree connections. You could, because you're doing a pyramid, and it's like this, you want it to be pretty nice, but it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because you're kind of squishing that edge together anyway. But the important thing is to not cut it too steep that way, and also to leave that edge. You gotta make sure to leave that edge, because that's the outside edge that's gonna be seen. Bevel. Bevel.
And so you let that sit for one day?
Since last class, it was sitting in my cubby, loosely covered. Or no, not loosely covered, just the, just with newspaper.
And so these are kind of a softer leather hard.
Yeah.
Not leather, kind of flexible leather.
Yeah, this one, they're a little different.
Like flexible leather.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen this kind.
Okay, now I'm gonna put this over the side. I'm not gonna cut all these right now because you don't need to see every little bit. I'm just gonna try to construct a corner with 3 parts, and then I'll come back later. I'll have you guys check it out later once I start putting things together. Remember we talked about simple to complex? Like you might start with a rectangle and then start cutting it apart and putting it back together in different ways. And you can build something really complex without having to measure out every little section. And it's kind of more, it's going to be more sort of creatively experimental to do that. So there's some freedom in this. You need to plan it, but there is some freedom. Okay, so now I'm gonna just start with 2 edges here. Score the heck out of it. Score it more than you think you need. Score it real good. Okay, yeah, so this is gonna go here.
Is that a Trader Joe's fork?
This is the Trader Joe's board.
It looks so good. It looks like it works really well.
It works really great, and they last a long time. I went to Trader Joe's and I was like, can I have like 50 forks?
Are you serious?
And they said, or like, can I buy them? And they're like, how many do you need? And I was like, Yeah, like 50. And they came back and they gave me a whole bag of them. They gave me like 100 of them or something.
Tell them you were an artist.
I told them what I was using them for. It's part of the life of an artist, asking people for items in an odd context. Like you're gonna do.
Teacher, you probably did tons of that.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah. Then they feel like they're contributing. Exactly. Oh, does someone have a paddle?
There's one in the community tools.
Cool. Because otherwise I was gonna have to move my camera.
I think it's yours.
I think it's your strap.
Haha, if it's ugly, it's mine. Or if it has yellow spray paint on it, it's mine. That too. Okay, so I'll put my edges together, and here we'll see, did I cut it good? I think I did. Good job. But did I
This
score it?
edge is,
No, that doesn't work, so I gotta score this edge.
the far side seems like that's how you want it?
I'll clean it up
You can
later.
also add a little tiny bit of clay, just to the seam,
I mean,
like just the tiny.
no, that feels good. It's just a little ugly right now. Slip. And so I just grab slip out of the reclaim bucket. And it works just fine. It's all high fire stoneware. So now I have these edges together. And then I can paddle them. Just a little paddling now just to really compress it together. I'll probably paddle it more once I get this thing together. But this beveling technique will get you stronger seams, and you don't have to do as much math. You don't have to account for that, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch thickness. So the next thing you want to do is compress the seams. So you guys know about compressing seams, but remember, traumatic memories. Clay has memory, and you want to erase those traumatic memories of union. So compress, 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 compress up here. Make sure our viewers at home can see this. And then, what do we need to do after we compress a seam?
Put a roll of clay.
Bada bing. So now that I've compressed it real good, come in, score it again, score it again. I might even use a brush with a little bit of water right here just to kind of re-moisten that clay, kind of reactivate it, but slip will do it. And so we're using the sculpture clay for this assignment, and that's good because this sculpture clay is very forgiving. And seams, corners, clay does not like to be, doesn't like to be a corner. It just loves to split when it's a corner. So I'm gonna use, there's just a lot of tension in those corners. I'm gonna use some of this leather hard clay for my coil. I could use some clay out of the bag, but why might this be better?
It matches the consistency.
Bada bing, yes. Same consistency, so it should stick better, or rather it'll shrink along with the clay. Again, a little cup with water and a brush would be nice. but this is good too. What did I do with my brush? It's probably right in front of me.
It's behind.
Thank you. Slip, slip, slip. Stick that coil in there. Push it, push it. Real good. And if I wasn't doing this as a demo that I was trying to make, you know, quick and efficient, I might, you know, have all those sides and then do all those seams. But then it's like, you can't do the last piece, the cap piece, unless you find some way to get back in there later or something like that. But that's why it's like, you can't get every corner and every seam, but you want to do your best to, oh, you're the man, thank you. You want to do your best to get at every seam that you can.
So what do you do for the top piece, for the final closing side?
Just plenty of scoring, plenty of slip, and then you just like beat it on there without distorting your form too much.
Is this interior seam going to be seen on your piece?
No. But I mean, maybe you do want to make a hollow cavity in your piece. In which case, know that those seams will be seen and address them accordingly. You know, I'm gonna put a hole in my